Welcome to the Pacific Coast Cutting Horse Association. Hi, I'm Randy Corley. Today we're going to see what it's like to step up and to compete against some of the best riders and horses in the nation. And maybe, together, we'll learn something. But one thing I know for sure is that when you see what these horses and riders are really all about, you'll know that the Pacific Coast Cutting Horse Association is second to none. You know, on every event I've ever seen, a horse and a rider communicate with a good bit and a strong set of reins. Then with a little added leg pressure, you can control the turning, the stopping, the acceleration, and the balance. Have you ever wondered what would happen if you took away the reins? Would that horse still give 100%? The object of cutting is to cut or to separate a cow away from the herd. Once the cut's been made, the rider must drop their hand and give the horse free rein. Then the horse alone must keep that cow from returning. The requirement that a cutting horse perform without the use of reins makes cutting one of the most intense of all equestrian sports. Today, cutters compete for nearly $20 million, but it wasn't always that way.
Cutting really is sort of a dramatization of some real work, and it's pretty close to it. But when the very beginning, when the cutting horse first started, what he was a pretty special horse in a cowboy's string because he would work a cow. And they'd have to gather cattle, and they'd make a big circle, and you'd have a big circle horse to go out there and gather them. He'd have to have a lot of stamina. But when they got all the cattle together and all the different ranchers running their cattle together on this open range, well, they'd have to sort out the cattle. There's mine over here, and yours in that herd over there, and Joe's over here in a third herd. So they'd get their special horse, and they'd bring him in there, and they'd sort out all these cattle, and they'd part pairs, and they'd get 3 different herds going, and the horse that they used to do that on, he was their cutting horse, and he was special to them.
Back then, things were pretty simple. No rules, regulations, or stopwatches. But now cutting has evolved into a highly sophisticated sport where even a split-second mistake may cost the winning run.
Cutting starts with a herd of cattle maintained by 2 herd holders. Horse and rider enter the herd and separate a cow. 2 turnback horses out front help contain the cow in a favorable working area, but only the horse and rider are judged. Each horse enters the arena with 70 points. From there, they are penalized or awarded points accordingly. Once a cow is separated, the rider must drop the reins and not pick them up again until it's time to get another cow. Quitting a cow when the going gets tough is known as a hot quit and brings a 3-point penalty. A rider can only get the next cow after their cow either turns away from the horse or stops moving and stands still. Reining a horse, no matter how subtle, is a 1-point penalty. A horse losing working advantage, called a miss, is a 1-point penalty. A horse working too close to the herd, causing other cattle to flush out, is a 3-point penalty. And every cutter's fear, losing a cow, is a 5-point penalty. Often, 3 cows are used in the 2.5 minutes allowed, but it's only mandatory to make 2 cuts. The object is to show that the horse can control the cow, and preferably keep the cow working in the center of the pen.
You know, a cutter won't win a trophy like this or take home the prize money by making mistakes. It takes them precision timing in a horse that's an outstanding athlete. But then to make things even a little more difficult, the judges may have their own favorite qualities.
What I look for to gain points is for someone that'll go in and really try to cut a tough cow. And so many times you see people go in, they'll cut a good cow, and it's really getting good, and then they quit. And that don't go good with me.
The first thing is how well the horse stops. And not only how well the horse stops, how hard it stops, but how long it holds the stop in the ground.
He can gain points by being correct. Staying on his rear end, bending in his hocks, stopping straight in the ground, leading with his nose, and just being correct.
It starts with the way a man or a woman makes the cut initially, whether it's a nice, clean, quiet, everything's very well controlled situation. And then from there, it's loose reins or the way the horse stops, the speed of the cow, the ability that the cow's threatening to the horse. You know, I like to see a contestant that really demonstrates a tremendous amount of horsemanship and showmanship. I think that's important because you're looking at the overall picture.
For me to mark a really high score, the horse really has to go get on his hind end and turn around hard and stay right in front of the cow.
Some horses are just more talented than others, you know, and so that means that, you know, most of them cost a lot more money. So
my favorite type of horse is a horse that's really electric, that's bright, alert, their ears are up, a very quick movement, they stop really hard, and I like a horse that remains in position.
A lot of the runs nowadays are real pretty, correct type runs, but there's nothing hard about them.
Show me your horse. Give me 2.5 minutes of why my horse is better than the other horses here.
When people began in the league that you were in, and yourself included, there wasn't a lot of money to be made going down the road.
Very little. But again, you know, you may go to a show and maybe the purse was $125. but then the entry fee would be $25 plus $5 cattle charge.
And expenses of getting there.
Oh, absolutely. Always
You didn't
had
stand
that.
to make any money. Why would you keep going to
Well, it
this?
was just the love of the thing, just the love of the cut, you know, and the cowboy in you, you know.
Cutting horses have been specifically bred to possess the instinct necessary to work cattle. It's been said that nearly any horse can be trained to stop when a cow stops and turn when the cow turns. But only the truly great horses have the desire to perform and the instinct to anticipate. Watch closely, and you'll see that the moves of a great cutting horse perfectly imitates those of the cow, almost like looking in a mirror.
Dave, when you drop the reins and when you actually begin your run, there's got to be a great feeling to the fact of having full knowledge that he's going to do his job, or is there ever any fear that, even if it starts good, that you may lose that with him?
Well, I'm sure there's always a little bit of that in the back of your mind, but I do think by the time that you get there, and if you bring this horse, you're thinking he's a 100% horse and he's going to do his job, and so I think there's a lot of trust there.
You've been a cowboy all your life, but I guess there's a difference between a cowboy and a go public cowboy, it might be. You started competition in a different way.
Well, I did. I was trying to be a calf roper, and then, you know, I got to watching these cutting at these shows, and the first thing you know, I thought, well, gosh, I'd like to try that too, you know, and which I did. So first thing you know, I was hauling a cutting horse along with my rope horse.
Did you come to a crossroads in life where you had to say, okay, I'm going to give up one and really concentrate on the other?
Yes. It come to the point where I just went totally into the cutting horses. You know.
How old were you when you did that?
Oh, I was probably in my late 20s.
Trainers have been known to teach, but who taught Dave?
Well, I think Dave taught himself through trial and error, and a lot of error. As you know, it's very rewarding. When I think about some of the young gentlemen that's worked for me and, you know, that went on and become, you know, good trainers.
Right.
And it's a lot of pride in it.
Do a lot of those keep in contact with you?
Oh, every now and again somebody will pick up the phone and they'll say, you know who this is? And of course I know who he is.
Sure.
And so we talk about old times, and then some reason or other they always come up, you know, they say, I got a horse and he's doing this. What would you do about it, Dave? And I said, well, let's go over 2 or 3 things here. Maybe that's what the problem is, you know.
Well, after your life thus far involved in horses and the cutting horse business as it has been, if you look back across it, is there any one thing or any part of it you'd want to change?
Well, yes, as I look back, I just wish I had knew a whole lot more when I first started. And, you know, then it just seemed like there was nowhere you could go to actually really learn. You just had to learn it all by yourself to a certain point.
But you'd still be in the cutting horse business.
Oh,
you had
there's
to
no,
do it again.
Oh yeah, I certainly would, and I'd just like to do it better.
You know, the quality of today's cutting horse is extraordinary, but this didn't just happen overnight. It's taken generations of breeding the right horses to finally reach these high standards.
The cutting horse you see today
is a product of years and years of breeding and training and a lot of effort on a lot of people. And what that amounts to is breeding great individuals to great individuals. King, for example, King was one of our premier foundation quarter horses. Most famous son of King is Poco Bueno. But King himself was, they said, a horse that everybody that saw him, they had to have him. This is in 1937, and times are very tough. And when Jess Hankins gave $800 for King, everybody thought he was ready for the mental institution. We have mares that are terrific producers, time after time. A good example of a mare that produced, that was a great individual herself, was probably Poco Lena. Poco Lena was a daughter of the great Poco Bueno, and Poco Lena won about $100,000 way back when. They paid about maybe $100 to win a weekend cutting. I think we have developed a better cutting horse. What we can't forget is that we can't forget where we came from. And a tremendous amount of that cow, that innate ability of a horse to want to work a cow, came from that old foundation.
In addition to outstanding bloodlines, much training goes into these animals as well. Next, with the help of trainer Scott Weiss, we'll see how they train these horses and prepare them for the largest futurity on the West Coast.
A finished cutting horse is going to have a lot of demand put on him every time he performs. When you start a horse, how do you keep him from burning out?
Well, what we're trying to do with that young horse is, as we train him, we want to keep his enjoyment level high. And so what we do is we try and work him on really good quality cattle and make it into somewhat of a game for him. If he can establish a little bit of play with a cow, then his interest is always going to remain at a high level. Right now, all I'm doing is just teaching her how to play the game. But it is a game to her. You can see the ear expression to know that she's thinking that cow might go somewhere. When we're running around the pen like this, I give my young horse an advantage by being back in here a little bit, but when it comes to a stop, both stop.
Stays back.
Yeah, and what we're doing on those babies is it'll go around like this, and the cow will come to a stop, and that colt will kind of go like this a little bit, and I'll have to back him up and stop him and say, no, you missed it, let's pull it back up. Let's get this line taut again, and then away we go. We're just trying to teach them to work parallel to that cow. Where that cow goes, they want to go. When that cow stops, we want them to stop. And as that cow moves across the pen, we want that horse to work perfectly parallel to it. And all I'm doing here is just keeping a little contact on that cow by helping this horse with the bridle reins. And as we go round and round, they start to look for it because it's a circle. It's an infinite line.
Right.
There's no place in this pen that tells them when that cow's going to stop. That cow stops when he wants to. So when he stops and that colt learns that he has to watch that cow stop, then everything else from there is just me positioning the body. As that cow sets up a little bit, I'll come to it and let this horse feel for that cow. Teaching him how to stop and turn here, but I'm not really getting in his way. All I'm doing is just assisting in his control over that cow. But if that cow blinks, you know, they come to life. Their ears are going like this, and their whole animation is, what is that cow going to do? It's a game, and it's an enjoyable game to them, and all we're doing is guiding them to help them figure out that game a little quicker. And my job is to be sort of the conductor, not the director. It's like teaching little kids. It's all based on confidence.
Right.
And you keep showing them that they're really good at what they do, and their confidence builds, and as that confidence builds, they think they can do more.
Yep.
Right here, we're just creating a little scenario where she's trying to outsmart that cow. She's got a lot of look on a cow. She can control a cow with her body. I just assisted her there and there through the turn, helping her find her way around this pen. Yeah, the natural ability is what you're trying to develop. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to train them to do what I want them to do. I'm not trying to train them to do what they want to do. I want their natural ability to come out and just show them the way.
Scott, you can take a student all the way through your training, everything you want to teach them, but then when they really get into the competition of a futurity, how do you settle them down enough to where they're going to be able to go in there and do exactly what you've trained them here in the pens?
Well, what I do with my non-pros is basically that the course of the year is built on, you know, me assisting them in their training and their riding. And so when we get to that show pen, what I try to do is basically be there for them, you know, not only emotionally, but in my voice, and that I carry the situation. I kind of have a better perspective of the big picture. So what I try to do is talk them through that run while they're showing that horse, whether they need to ride a little stronger, sit a little quieter, you know, look for where the cows are that we desire to cut, try and find the tools to give them so that they can demonstrate that horse at his best. A story I remember once was a girl that was riding with me was having just a phenomenal run, and as the run started to come to a close, I glanced at the clock and saw there was 8 seconds left. And she really was riding well, but I could see the look in her eye that she was thinking of weakening and maybe getting off that cow. So I kind of yelled over at her. I said, "Dana, you have 15 seconds. Well, you know, stay hooked." And so she gritted her teeth, and I could see her riding. And when that buzzer went off, she kind of went like this and looked at me and says, "I thought you said 15 seconds. I said, "Yeah, but I just didn't want you to weaken. I knew you could make the buzzer, but I didn't want you to think there was only 8 seconds left." So,
Scott, I've watched you coach all you can coach. I've watched you work from in the arena with the students, and I guess if I'm going to learn anything, it's time to get in the saddle.
well, we've got the horse and we've got the cattle. Let's give it a try.
Sounds good.
There you go. Stay right there to that wall. We're going to go that other way now, just like a tennis match. And remember, when you go that way, to just use your legs. There you go, buddy. Push on that horn. Push on that horn. Push. Sit real still right here. Hey, there you go. Keep your hand up and stay on that black cow's head. Pull him to it. There you go. Now drop your hand and use your left leg just a little. There you go. Keep your hand still. Your leg will get you there, okay? That's it. Wait him out. Push on that horn right there, partner. There you go. Push on that horn. There you go. Push on that horn. There you go. Just ride. Just ride. Push on that horn. Just ride. Now quit signal. You got it now. All right, let's cut another one. We're getting them now. Back up just a step. And let's go cut another one. You just about got it, but we want that action in the middle. And so what's going to happen is you're going to want to try and lure that cow to the center. Drive to me just a little and drop your hand. Drop your hand and use your legs right there. Kick him with both legs just a little right there. There you go, partner. Both legs all the way. That's it. Cow gets there, you take your feet out. Hey, there you go. Well, that was great.
Thank you, Scott.
You bet. Nice job. How did that feel?
There's no feeling like it in the world on top of a horse, I'll promise you.
It's the best seat in the house. It looked great, and you really did a good job.
Thank you, and stay with us. Coming up next, we're going to the futurities.
the Pacific Coast Cutting Horse Association Futurity, which is one of the largest futurities in the nation. Hundreds of 3-year-olds will be competing for the prestigious title. Open classes are open to any horse and any rider and primarily consist of professionals who train cutting horses for a living. Non-pro and amateur classes are limited to riders who are not professional horse trainers. A series of go-rounds eliminates most horses until a field of 33 open horses make it to the open semifinals, and 15 horses make it to the final round. This is where years of training comes down to 2.5 minutes. Keeping a cow from returning to the herd is the main objective. However, the eye appeal and score is greater when the cow is kept working in the center of the pen versus running from side to side, allowing the fence to stop the cow. Keeping a cow centered demands intricate timing on behalf of horse and rider. Theoretically, a cow separated from the herd will choose the most direct line back. But with the horse blocking the retreat, the cow must alter its path. As the cow moves to the side to follow the new path, the horse stops it by moving just slightly past its head, called heading the cow. This stops and turns the cow back to the center as it sees a new path home. Again, the horse jumps to the head and stops the cow, presenting the invitation to return back to the center line. This is what Scott calls luring the cow to the center by shutting down the ends. Executed properly, the cow will be maintained in the middle. However, if the horse is even slightly too far ahead, the cow could duck in behind the horse. Or if it is even the slightest bit too late, it will push the cow in the rib cage or hip area and force the cow to run to the fence, commonly known as running end to end.
There's nothing quite like a cutting horse. They are the best of the athletes. We think they offer the most excitement.
The Pacific Coast Futurity is the last show of the year we go to before the big Futurity in Fort Worth, Texas. And I think it's great that it's at the end of the year because it's my favorite show. So you look forward all year to coming here. And we travel everywhere from there in Texas to Augusta, Georgia, and Memphis, which is now actually the Memphis Futurity, but it's in Tunica, Mississippi. And we go all over the United States showing. And this is my favorite show. It's a long day drive out here, 2 long days to get here. But once you get here, it's well worth it. The grounds here are awesome. There's great stalls, great arenas for the horses. The weather is wonderful. The atmosphere is great. The committee is outstanding. It's one of the few cuttings that we go to that you really feel like they want you here. And if you have any problems or questions, they're there to assist you.
Thanks for taking the time to become better acquainted with the Pacific Coast Cutting Horse Association. We hope you've enjoyed meeting some of the horses and many of the outstanding members, but most of all, we hope we have a chance to see you somewhere down the road. And maybe, just maybe, we'll see you in the show pen.